just arrived in Taormina. I'm going to show y'all the room because this is really amazing. So let me turn you around. Here's the bathroom. We have a massive tub. Amazing. Hello. I don't know why my shoes are squeaking because it has not rained. Here is a closet I have never in my life, and a little vanity. So I can do my hair and talk to y'all in the morning. Here is the bedroom. Super nice, big bed. You can see we've already sat our bags down, but wait till you see this. But here is the view out of the room with our own balcony. That's Isola Bella, which is a little tiny island that you can walk to. I think you can see that right there. All those people are walking across the land bridge. Hey y'all, it's Jennifer. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am coming to you with what I think is going to be a reading vlog, but it is also just partially a trip vlog. I'm going to be in Taormina, Sicily for the next few days, which is absolutely incredible. We are staying at one of the hotels that was featured in the White Lotus season 2, mostly because I fell into a deep, dark depression after every single episode. And so I looked up all of the filming locations and I discovered one of the hotels, and it is this one. So this is one of the hotels where they used kind of, I think, the breakfast area in the show, and I think they also used some of the beach bar area and some of the restaurants. I plan on doing a lot of relaxing here. I am fresh off of a few days in Rome. I think you'll probably have seen those vlogs before this one, and so it was a really hard few days there in Rome just because A, it was hot, and then B, the air conditioning went out in our room in the hotel and they never did anything to fix it, which was beyond me. In fact, somebody did come and then they just shook their head at me and told me they didn't know what to do. I, in fact, had more success at trying to get it fixed than they did. And isn't that really sad? Isn't that saying something? And we were also using that time to really get used to the time change. So I feel like I'm now really ready to relax. I'm really tired, hit the ground running, went all over the place in Rome, and yet still didn't manage to see half of the stuff we wanted to see, but isn't that the way it always goes? I picked up a few books in Rome because I did go book shopping. I wanted to do kind of a tiny book shopping with me vlog. I don't really know what the situation is here in Taormina, and the hotel that we're staying at is technically not in Taormina Center, and so we would have to take the hotel shuttle into town. I don't know how often we are going to do that, and I also just don't really know what Taormina has in terms of bookstores, so I may read one of the things that I bought in Rome, but I have, of course, been utilizing my Kindle. My Kindle is what I carry with me every time I travel, and so I wound up reading a few things. Maybe I'll do a recent reads because I haven't really covered anything that I have been reading in the past few months. I haven't done any sort of wrap up, weirdly enough, but I was disappointed with the first couple of things that I read here. And so I am now in the middle of, I think it's called The Scarlet Veil by Shelby Mahurin. And this is a vampire fantasy romance, need I say more? And I am loving it because it is French inspired. And I just feel like there's something about vampires that is so French coded. And I guess it's just because the Anne Rice fan in me thinks everyone should be Louis or Lestat. The thing about this book that has been frustrating to me so far, A, it's really long. B, I feel like at this point in the novel, we should have felt like something was happening and nothing is. But C, it's that it takes place in the same world as another trilogy by Shelby Mahurin, which was about witches. And I read the first 2 books in that trilogy. I enjoyed the first book, hated the second, and I never finished the trilogy. And so I have spent the majority of this book genuinely confused because I don't remember what happened. And I knew this was set in the same world, but I figured it was about different characters. And she really, really has expected you to remember everything that happened in that initial trilogy. And specifically, I would say, how that trilogy ended. So I feel like I am reading this and not having even half of the information that would be valuable to have. But I am about halfway through it, and again, like I said, to me at this point, I would think something of real interest would have happened, something that was a little bit more thought-provoking maybe, I don't know. So I will keep you updated. I think this is a book that I'll probably finish in the next day or so. Hey y'all, this is the update from the balcony. If you can sit on the table, I don't think you can actually see behind me, but that's Isola Bella, and it's really pretty. But I have basically finished the Scarlet Veil today. Today we just sat around at the pool and at the beach. Oh my gosh, it is incredible. You just really don't know. I just sat around at the pool. I had a glass of wine looking out at the sea. I mean, I just felt like I was on Mediterranean holiday. I truly was blown away by the vibes, you know? But I basically finished the Scarlet Veil today, and I am loving this, and I kind of think I'm gonna give it 5 stars. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think I'm very giving with reviews when I am on vacation. I just think when I am a little bit more relaxed, not that this has been a relaxing vacation so far, today is the most relaxed I've been the whole time. But I think when I'm kind of enjoying myself more or having fun, I think I'm a little bit more lenient on books. And so it's easier for me to find a favorite here at the beach or on holiday than it is when I'm just reading a book at any other time. And so I think I'm a little bit more forgiving with flaws. But to me, this book has done something very interesting with the vampire mythos, because it has basically been constructed around the idea that most people don't know what vampires are. That vampires have concealed themselves from everyone in this fantasy world. And so I really like that. The main character has had to really figure out what weakens them, why they are so strong. Technically, even what they are was just a complete mystery to her, which I think made this fresh and new and also really fun and engaging. I also just really love the main character. I love the love interest, and I love the vampires. And this is one thing I'll say about the original series that I mentioned yesterday. I really loved the construct of witches in that series because I just felt like it was very old world and very nostalgic in many ways, which is definitely the way these vampires feel to me. They feel very Vampire Diaries or even True Blood. They just kind of feel the way vampires should feel to me. They should be romantic, but they should also definitely have some weaknesses. And so I really love just how this book has played with the idea of the vampire. I wanted to read a vampire book for Halloween, and when I get back to the States, it'll be the weekend before Halloween, and I just don't know how much reading will get done. So I'm really glad that I picked this one up. I have no earthly idea where I'm going to go from here, but I am just absolutely loving this book. I'm almost at the end, but again, I do wish that I had finished the trilogy, the original trilogy, or at least that I had gone back and read a summary or something, because I feel like she has assumed a level of knowledge on behalf of you as the reader that you don't necessarily have. I certainly don't, but I do feel like she's gone back and explained the pertinent things. So I don't know. On the one hand, I feel like I did get eventually all of the info I needed, but at the same time, admit the first half of the book was kind of confusing to me. So I am going to settle in, relax, take my shower, finish this book, possibly start another. I don't know what tomorrow brings, but if the weather is good, I really want to take advantage of being at the sea. So we'll see when I do eventually venture into town, into Taormina. But I'm really excited about that. It was very foggy this morning, so you couldn't see Etna. But one thing that's interesting is that we have like breakfast here at this hotel, and they serve granita, which is a Sicilian delicacy in my opinion. And it's basically kind of like a frozen ice, almost like a sorbet, but it's not. It's not the same texture as a sorbet. And you eat it on a brioche bun. You eat it with brioche. It is incredible. It's apparently a typical Sicilian breakfast. Blown away. My mom and I were completely blown away by how good it was, and we knew it was going to be fabulous. They also had cannoli at breakfast, and so I had a canola, and it was amazing. The best one I've ever had, and I'm very hard on them because I've had many a cannoli in my day, and I just haven't always loved them. The first cannoli I ever had was in New York, and they were selling them on the street in Little Italy. There was something about that. That was easily like the best canola that I have ever had. And so every time since I've compared them, the one I had this morning, on par, and technically I'm going to say it, better. As it should be. We are in the land of the cannoli. So I will keep you updated. I will try to show more of the spreads of food. I'm really glad we came, and hopefully we can really relax on this second part of our trip. hate this tripod. I got like a selfie stick turned into a tripod before I came, and I thought, you know, gee, how useful would that be? And I know there are those of y'all who are shaking your head like, Jenny, why do you use a selfie stick? Let me tell you, if you have ever been a solo traveler at all, a selfie stick is the only way you're guaranteed a decent picture of yourself. So I do like to have them around, but I hate this as a selfie stick. And I also hate it as a tripod. It's trying to do too many things at once. So today is Sunday, and we leave Thursday morning. And I just thought I would go on and give you an update. I think tomorrow we're going to try to go into town. So that'll be really nice. But yesterday we spent all day at the pool. Today we spent all day at the beach. It was amazing. We had lunch looking at Mount Etna. We had breakfast looking at Mount Etna. It was incredible. But I did finish this Scarlet veil last night, loved it. In fact, I gave it 5 stars. And I don't think I'm actually being that generous. I really do think the book deserved it because A, it was a great romance. B, it developed into a really interesting plot. I'm really intrigued by the rest of the series. I feel like it did take a long time to get to that plot though. I can't remember how I talked about the first half, but it's like, to me, the first half spent a lot of time setting things up and also assuming you knew everything about the previous series. And so that to me was a much slower part of the book. And the book had to have been 800, 900 pages. Like, it literally felt so long. But I loved what it did with vampires. I loved the gothic vibe. I just felt like it was at least interesting. It was trying to do something new, but at the same time, it tried to keep everything in exactly the way that you wanted it to be in terms of a vampire story. Everything was recognizable, but at the same time, I felt like it was at least trying to do something a little bit more interesting and a little bit fresh. I loved the main character because she was really nice and she was really vulnerable. She was really weak, I guess you would say. And I can definitely tell that that would be something that would irritate a lot of other readers, but that didn't bother me at all because I feel like I'm often saying I want more characters like this, especially in fantasy. I want more people who can't necessarily take care of themselves, if that makes sense, because I think that's probably the objective truth for most of us. And so I appreciated the fact that she really was a human dealing with supernatural creatures that were so much stronger than her, and it never felt like, to me, her interactions with them were unrealistic in terms of what she could actually do. But I have a big stupid crush on Michael, the vampire in this book. Love him. And there were multiple different characters that I think really had a lot going for them. I think this would be an interesting series to also have a spin-off and feature some of the other characters. Today, though, I started The Death I Gave Him by M.X. Liu. And M.X. Liu is an author that's really interesting because we used to follow each other on Tumblr back in the day, back at like the height of Tumblr. And this is a sci-fi retelling of Hamlet. And let me tell y'all, it is absolutely incredible. People have been talking about how lyrically it's written, but also just how bizarre of a book it is. And I knew, based on the negative reviews, basically, that this book would work extremely well for me. So I had it pre-ordered, basically because I feel like we were mutuals on Tumblr, so it's like we're almost friends. But I knew I was going to save it and wait until this week to read it. And I think it's really good because it's requiring a lot of me, and I feel like being at the beach is kind of a great time because your mind is relaxed and you can focus on deeper issues and deeper topics. And so I think this is a complex book that's requiring a lot of me, which is great. So I am really enjoying it. I'm glad I saved it to read now and I didn't try to read it on the plane over here because that was hellacious. So this is set up kind of like a locked room mystery. It's a sci-fi that's set in the future that's dealing with immortality and AI and kind of preserving your mind elsewhere so that others can see your memories. And I think it's a really interesting world. I think the format of the book is interesting. It has such a strong voice. Like, to me, I can automatically identify that this is M.X. Liu's style. I can feel that this is definitely the author's voice, which I think is kind of a unique experience to be having with a book that is a debut. And I'm not normally a big sci-fi girly, but I love stuff that deals with immortality at all. So I'm excited by this. The shame is, it is a retelling of Hamlet, and so you know where this is going. And in my opinion, you know who did it. So I think the book is going to have to do a bunch of different things in order to keep readers on their toes, so to speak, in terms of figuring out who done it. Because if you've read Hamlet, or if you're even vaguely familiar with Hamlet, then I think you know exactly where this book is going. And I can't tell right now if that is to the book's detriment or if that's actually making it a really fun reading experience, in my opinion. So I personally am really loving it. I really like a Shakespeare retelling, especially one that is doing something kind of unique, in my opinion, in terms of setting. This is, I think, the second Shakespeare retelling that I've read in the back half of the year here, and both of them, in a weird way, have been sci-fi retellings, but I think this is working really well for me because I really like Hamlet, and Hamlet is definitely one of the most retold of the plays because I think it offers so much thematically. So I'm really excited, and I hope that it keeps up the momentum. I'm gonna read some more of it tonight, but I'll probably turn in early because We want to try to go into town tomorrow, so hopefully that works out for us. We went into Taormina Town Central this morning, and the ultimate goal was to visit the Greek theater, which we did, and that was amazing because you can see Mount Etna through a little opening, a little gap in the stone, but it was very foggy this morning, and so we really couldn't see her well, and we wondered if it was her, if she was kind of smoking a little bit because there were no other clouds in the sky. But that's a Greek theater from, I think, the 300s BC. Is that right, Mom? Mm-hmm. So it's been there a really long time, but I think the Romans rebuilt it, and they still use it for shows because they were out there putting out regular seats when we were visiting it. But while in town, I went to the bakery, and I'm going to show you what I got. The first thing that I got is the most important thing, really, what I wanted, and that is these little almond fruits. They're fruit made of almond paste, and I think we would call it marzipan, but I'm not sure if it's gonna be the same flavor or even the same texture as marzipan because they're actually rather hard. So these are really cute. I think this is an apple and a cherry maybe, but they are really, really precious. That's ultimately why I wanted to get them, just because I thought they'd be cute. This is the bakery we went to, Minotauro. We also have a pistachio cannolo. So this I'm really excited to try, and the cream is coming out of that, so we need to eat that immediately. And also a mandorla cookie, which I know I'm mispronouncing, but mandorla, that's how they say almond in Italian, and almonds are grown here on Sicily. And so this is an almond cookie that is filled with some kind of orange jam. And everyone says you have to try these when you come here, and so I said, I certainly will. But here is the main thing. I saw a man selling nuts on the side of the road, and I've been saying for days I wish that I had some nuts. And so I bought pistachios from him. They are really, really good, and they're really beautiful. They're already shelled. And of course, because it is the land of the almonds, I got some almonds. I probably have $30 here in nuts. But they are known for growing the pistachios and the almonds, and I wanted to try them. So I think they're really, really good. I'm getting ready to have a whole bunch of snacks here. I'm gonna try everything, and I'll let you know how it is. So because we went into town this morning, we didn't spend nearly as much time on the beach by the pool, so not a lot of reading got done. But I am basically done with The Death I Gave Him, and I really, really like it. I think it's an unusual book. I think it's a book that not everyone is going to like. and I think it already has a very low average rating on Goodreads when I updated that I was currently reading this. And it doesn't shock me at all, because I think, first of all, the voice is weird. The way the book is written is weird. But I also think the content of the story is just very strange. And so I am really enjoying it, but I also would not say that I'm normally a sci-fi reader. I don't know when I've read a sci-fi. In fact, I can't even recall a time in the years that I have had a channel where I have really read a sci-fi book. And so I don't know if this is working for me because I don't normally read sci-fi, or if it's working for me because I think it's a pretty ingenious retelling of Hamlet. I think Hamlet is a great play to retell because it's interesting thematically, and I think you can still get across maybe the heart of the play if you're just going based on themes. And so I think that's what this one is doing. You can definitely see the character beats here, but I find it enjoyable every time I see Hamlet retold, and I think this is at least trying to engage with the play on a different level. It's trying to be interesting and it's trying to be underhanded, but it's also exploring character relationships that were always there in the play to me, and I think it's doing it really brilliantly. From here, I don't know where to go. The funny thing is that we're a week out from Halloween. Tomorrow is Tuesday, and so a week from tomorrow is Halloween, and I feel like I exhausted all of my Halloween reading back in the summer. And so I'm hoping that I have something on my Kindle somewhere that will kind of scratch the Halloween itch, but we'll see. I just personally am really loving the death I gave him, and I'm really glad that I saved it for this leg of the trip. I don't know what tomorrow and Wednesday will bring, but Thursday we fly out of here, we fly out of Catania back to Rome just for a night, and then we fly home on Friday. So it's kind of sad. I'm already a little bit depressed just thinking about it. It's a shame because it takes me so long now to get adjusted and to feel good, I think. And so I feel like just around the time that I'm starting to get a handle on things and I'm starting to feel really good, that's really when you have to pack things up and go home. And travel didn't used to bother me the way that it does now, but I've had so many conversations with myself on this trip because I really have not felt that great during parts of it, that basically I think this may be one of my last hurrahs in a different time zone, in a time zone that is so different from my own, because I just don't know if I can handle it anymore. And I don't know what it is about me, but I just feel like it really, really does not agree with me. But I am in love with Taormina. It's just so beautiful. I mean, really, I cannot get over the fact that really at basically any vantage point and from any view, I am looking at an active volcano. Like, that's very hard for me to wrap my mind around, but I just really love it here. And I definitely want to explore more of Sicily. So I hope that I can find a way to travel better and thus to feel better when you travel, because last year and this year, it's totally wiped me out and exhausted me in a way that it didn't used to. I think some of that's the heat. I think I probably just need to come in kind of the back half of the year. I need to come November, December, and January. I really don't know. At any rate, I will update you when I finish this book and when I decide what I'm going to go with next. just filmed an entire other video. Aren't you proud of me? But the death I gave him, I finished last night at like 10 o'clock, and I had to call it quits then. I was falling asleep reading. So this wound up getting 3 stars from me. The back half of this really let it down. That's the sad thing, because I feel like the first half set up something very interesting. This back half just really let all of those interesting elements fall by the wayside, and it went crazy in a way that was just bizarre to me. And there was a love story in this that was interesting, and I think would have been very, very fun to explore earlier in the book, or later in the book actually, just not at the time that it did. It felt like we were exploring a romance during a time that was very fraught and very eventful. Like literally when all of the events of the plot were taking place, that's when these scenes happened. And I'm thinking, is this the time? Is this the time? I don't really think it is. So I had some questions about that. I had some questions about how the romance was incorporated. And I also just in general had questions about the ending, which of course I won't tell you about for spoilers' sake. But again, if you have read Hamlet, if you're familiar with Hamlet at all, you know where this book is going. And in a way, you've read this book. And I think that is something I'm going to say is one of the flaws that this book had. Again, it was in the back half. But the flaw that I felt this book had really is that it assumed a level of knowledge on behalf of you as the reader of Hamlet. It really assumed that you knew everything about Hamlet, and thus you knew everything that this book wanted to do. And I feel like if you went into this without a good understanding of Hamlet, you were kind of lost on some things the author didn't explain, but you as the reader, if you know Hamlet, know what happened off page because you're kind of filling in the blanks with the play. I think if you haven't read Hamlet, or if you haven't read it 2 or 3 times, you're probably going to be lost, or you're going to not understand those elements. Even if you have read it, I think it would be easy to assume that you've forgotten stuff like that. So some of the times where I thought the author could have held our hand a little bit more and explained more, they didn't do that. But at the same time, I also felt like we were explained too much. We were given too much information about other things that we didn't need. We could have inferred, and that would have been more interesting. I would be really curious to know how other people felt about the ending of this book, especially if you're a big Hamlet fan or a big Shakespeare fan. The ending was interesting to me. And so I really want to read some more reviews of this, but I personally thought the writing was really beautiful. And so I'll definitely read more from MX Liu, but this kind of went downhill for me. I feel like from the first update, I was really feeling good about this one. And then in the back half, we just kind of crashed a little bit for me, and it wasn't that great. It wasn't that enjoyable. But I have since started A Study in Drowning by Ava Reid. And no one is more shocked than I am that I'm really loving this. I felt like I would. I felt like from the description, dark academia with Faye, I was set up to like this. Like this was gonna be my bread and butter. This was written for Jenny. But I've read Ava Reid in the past, and I don't like her voice. I didn't like kind of the authorial tone to the prose. I sometimes like when I can feel like an author is coming through the page and is coming through the characters. Other times I don't like it. And I feel like Ava Reid is coming through because I feel like her characters are really not that strong. And I still feel the same here. I don't feel like the characters are the strongest. But to me, this at least has the aesthetic. And so that's what's really keeping me going here. I think this is a great book to be reading at this time of year. It's very fall vibes. It feels very rainy and cozy. And I also kind of don't know where this one is going. I thought I had a conception in my head of what this book was about, and clearly I was wrong, and that's kind of fun to me. So I'm really excited about this one. I've read half of it today because literally I got up this morning, I ate granita, and then I also ate a cannoli, okay? Because they apparently have cannolis at breakfast here. And I also ate a cornetto that was filled with pistachio cream. This hotel has an area where you can fill cornetti with different types of fillings, and I knew that this area was known for the pistachios. So I got the pistachio cream the other day. Life-changing. I mean, life-changing. They're small. It was a little bitty cornetto. It was not a big one, it was a little one, so it's okay. And I ate that, literally experienced, you know, just the highest form of joy. There's something about this granita. Literally, why are we not all eating granita worldwide? Why is this just here? I'm curious, because literally, it's the best breakfast food. I truly believe that. I'm going home and I'm making granita. I'm gonna learn how to do it because, oh my gosh. But then we sat up in this like umbrella area on the rocks. So our hotel is on a cliff, and they have the umbrellas kind of going up the cliff around the pool and around the sea. And we didn't know about this until I think yesterday or the day before, and that's where we have sat all day. And so I just came in because I can't be in the sun anymore. I am too pale to be sitting out in the sun, and you can see what's happening to me. I'm starting to get burned just a little bit. So I came in. So that's why I'm halfway through this book, and I just am really loving it. I really do think she has improved as an author. I didn't read Juniper and Thorn, and I know a lot of people loved that. So I might go back to that after this because I'm really enjoying this. So I'm excited to see where this one goes. I may finish this today, you never know. But I am about to head in and I'm gonna eat some more of my nuts. These nuts are so good. And everything we had on our little sweet board yesterday, incredible. I love the almond cookies. I love Sicily. I love the food here. There's something going on here and I appreciate it. I have not had anything bad. Not to say that you eat anything bad in Italy, even bad pasta is still pretty good because odds are you're getting it freshly made, which makes a big difference, really. But I just think there's something about this place. I'm thinking Sicily may be the best for me in terms of a foodie environment. I always thought I liked Tuscany the best. And I still do like Tuscany because Tuscany, they like mushrooms. And I really like mushrooms, so. But I think the sweets here, incredible. This is an incredible dessert culture. I will update you later. Maybe I'll get more granita. Apparently you can eat granita all day long. I love it. I'm obsessed with granita. Granita is my new favorite food. What a difference between these two clips. It's been a week since I spoke to y'all, and it literally does look like the carriage turned into a pumpkin again. Came as a shock to me when I finally got up the energy since I've been sick since coming home. It's been a week since I last spoke to you, but it came as a shock to me this morning when I was looking through my clips and editing this vlog, and I realized I never finished a final clip, never wrapped up the final book, and never wrapped up the vlog. So that's what we're doing today. Forgive me for my voice. I have my water here, and I hope we can get through this clip without a coughing fit. But it has been very eventful in the days since I last spoke to you. So I can see why I probably did not update. First things first, do you want to hear the airline drama that I had on the way home? Before we wrap up A Study in Drowning and the vlog in general, I just really need to talk about this with someone. So I was starting to get sick the day that we left. I was kind of entering brain fog territory at the same time as going into Fiumcino Airport on Friday morning. So I knew this was coming and I was just thinking, I gotta get through this flight. I gotta get through this flight. So they had told me the day before that I couldn't check in online, which I thought was strange. I have a lot of points with this airline and I fly with them a lot and have never had that problem. So I called them the day before and I was like, hey, why can't I check in online? And they were like, what's the warning you got? I've read them the warning. And they said, you know what? We actually don't know why certain passengers get that warning. It'll all be fine. Just go up to the desk agent, which you have to do anyway if you have a bag to check. So we get there, luckily, by just sheer luck of the draw, we're there really early. And so we go through the line, we get up there, I'm putting our suitcases onto the thing to roll back. And the girl checking us in, she's like, I'm sorry, wait a minute, I have to go get someone. She brings a guy over. He says, I'm gonna have to call the airline company in the States to get this straight because they didn't have a headquarters in Rome. And so I'm wondering what on earth's going on here. Eventually he tells me while he's on hold with the airline company that I don't have a ticket on the flight. My mom has a ticket, but I don't. And I'm thinking, what? He asks me, did anything happen between like the initial booking of the ticket and the travel date. And something did. Actually, we were rebooked on a flight coming home for the next day, which was just not doable. It would have meant we were laid over overnight somewhere. And so I had to call about that. And I was like, this is not okay. And you need to put us on a flight where we get back in the same day. I'm not doing that. Apparently, when they changed that reservation, they only changed my mother's ticket, which is so bizarre because I had a seat on the flight. Like, we had a seat number. I had, baggage booked in. I had everything in except apparently the ticket, which was the weirdest thing of all time. And it's not like I ever got updates for that former flight. It's not like my ticket remained on that old flight. So we stood there for over an hour, and I'm not exaggerating, we stood there for over an hour. This poor man called them twice, and one time they said they had it fixed and they didn't, and then they finally did fix it, and I was going through, an existential crisis. I'm getting sick, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to tell my mom to go home without me because I can at least speak Italian, so if I have to stay here overnight and find somewhere to go, at least I'm capable of doing it. They did miraculously fix us on the plane, because one time my mom asked him, she was like, are we going to get on this flight? Like, are we going to get on the plane? And I was like, Mom, the question is never, were you getting on the plane? You could have gotten on the plane, but I didn't know if I was going to. And the dude even told me, he said, this is so bizarre because you're the person who booked these tickets. You're the person with an account with the airline. I said, yeah, I have a lot of questions. Come to find out, the people 2 or 3 desk agents down had the same exact problem. We're then on the flight, and my mom hears someone else across the aisle had the exact same problem we did. So something was going on, but anyway, that was stress, the likes of which I did not need. We flew into Chicago O'Hare. I'm going to go on and say this, I'm dropping names about O'Hare, but literally the customs line was an hour and a half because they put everyone in the same passport control line. I'm talking everyone from all countries, all nations. When you go to another country, you know what they have? They have their own passports, or EU passports in the case of the EU, and then they have a passport control for all other passports. Why didn't we have US nationals passports, and then passports from the EU and passports from other countries? They could have separated it into 2 or 3 things. That might not have been as bad to me, except by that point I'd been on a 9-hour flight and I was feeling like death warmed over because the cold had fully come on by that point in time, and so I was just not happy. So all in all, the planes are not bad. I just want to say this has really cemented it for me. I know I said earlier, I feel like this may be one of the last times I go overseas. Honestly, I kind of do, because it's not being on the plane. Being on the plane is not a hardship. It's not that bad. The issue is literally everything else when you deal with air travel. All this to say, I did get home safe and sound, and we're just thankful for that, because then my mom also got sick. So it was just fortuitous. I'm glad that we got home and that we could be sick at home, really sick at home. It was just coming on for me. But that was a wild experience. Truly it was. I've never experienced anything like it. But on a happy note, I did finish a study in drowning. And in fact, I finished it in Taormina. So I loved this. In fact, I loved it so much I gave it 5 stars, and it's a favorite of the year for me. No one's more shocked than I am. And frankly, reading this book put me into a reading slump. It's been a week and I still don't really feel the urge to read anything. A lot of it is just, though, that reading was basically all we did in Taormina. And so I think you get to the point where you get sick of it when that's all you can do. But this was such a great book to end a vacation on. And it was just, in general, to me, a great book to read kind of at the end of the Halloween season, just to read during autumn. This book hit me hard in parts. That's one thing about it that I want to say, and is really why I want to give it a high rating. There was something about it that really did speak to me on a deep level, and that I think really hit me hard. Some of the issues that Ava Reid wanted to touch on, specifically about how men react to women they find attractive, and then blame them for being attractive, basically. Blame them for kind of bringing on male attention. I thought the way this was discussed was so refreshing. And you know, on the one hand, when I think about it, I feel like a lot of books have discussed the issues that were present in this, especially when dealing with academia, and this world in particular didn't want women to go to college, to go to university, and this is something our main character was doing, and she's judged for it. And I feel like that's a topic that's discussed in a lot of different dark academia books, especially, but also just in general, more broadly in fantasy. And I feel like maybe it was heavy-handed in places, but I kind of think that's what this book needed. And I think that actually aided this book. I really liked it. I also thought the discussion with our male love interest was so interesting because he talked a lot about grief and guilt in terms of grief. And that hit me kind of hard. I really thought this book was impactful, but I also thought it was incredible how it wrapped up, the ending. I mean, it was just incredible. And I think a lot of my enjoyment came from the fact that apparently I didn't really know what this book was going to be or what it was going to really talk about. And I think that made this a stronger experience, in my opinion, because I was kind of kept on my toes a little bit with this in a really wonderful way. At any rate, I'm really glad that I took a chance on this. I felt like this would be really taking a chance, kind of going outside of my comfort zone, knowing that I had read from Ava Reid before and was fairly disappointed by it. But I am so glad that I picked this one up. I am so glad that I decided to read this one because I just thought it was a delight and an absolute wonder. I loved it. It's one of my favorite books of the year. I have constantly thought about it since finishing it, and I think really that's the reason why I'm in a book slump, is that I want to read something just like this or something on the same level, and I just know that there's nothing else that's going to be on that level for me. I have nothing on my TBR that's comparable. So it's a really special book, and I'm really glad I read it. It was a great one to round out this vlog. So 2 5 stars on Vacation, which is really wonderful. I hope that you enjoyed this vlog. If you stuck around this long, because I know this is a really long vlog, thank you. Please get a cookie. Get yourself a cookie. Get yourself a pumpkin spice latte or something, because I know this was a really long vlog. But I hope you really enjoyed it. I would love to know down below what you've been reading, if you have read any of these, if you've been to the absolutely wonderful and stunning Taormina, Sicily. But that's going to be all for me today. I hope you're all having a great week. Happy reading. Goodbye.